Let's take a look at the business news of the day then. Owen, President Hollande, we can call him that now officially. He seems to have found a bit of an ear for his growth plans, possibly.
He certainly does, Stuart. If that lightning strike portent, lightning strike on his plane was any sort of portent,
dramatic,
you'd think that first summit between these two leaders was going to go rather badly. Instead, as you say, President Hollande did actually find a sympathetic ear with Angela Merkel, the German Chancellor. Of course, the Germans against austerity for the most part, but beginning to recognise that with countries like Greece on the verge of default potentially and on the verge of possibly exiting the euro, something needs to be found to ease the terms a little bit for countries like Greece, and that lies principally, according to François Hollande, in some sort of growth path. But there remains a huge gulf between these two leaders. But saving Greece seems now to be the ultimate priority for these two leaders.
With one voice, German Chancellor Angela Merkel and French President François Hollande want to keep Greece on board.
The Greek people should be aware that we will come to them with measures promoting growth and backing economic activity, so that their place in the Eurozone is assured.
Comments echoed by Merkel, who said the EU was prepared to help Greece with growth measures. An election now there is certain after power-sharing talks collapsed on Tuesday. A new vote will have to take place by the middle of June. Voters in the 6th of May election rejected pro-EU IMF bailout parties in a no to austerity, bringing Greece one step closer to leaving the Eurozone. So could Greece go? The IMF, for one, hopes not.
We certainly don't hope so from the IMF point of view. But we have to be prepared for anything. As I said, you know, with endorsement by the PASOK and the Conservative Party, we thought that we had covered all the potential angles, and clearly that was not the case. So we have to be technically prepared for anything.
European Union commissioners too are anxious to see Greeks stay.
We really think it's better for them to confront difficulties within the European framework of solidarity and discipline rather than on their own.
Germany's Finance Minister Wolfgang Schäuble, too, on Tuesday chimed in to say EU countries had to get on together. Yes, sure, he said, it's not all easy, but we are in it together.
Well, Stuart, all of that didn't really help the markets an awful lot. We had assurances from the likes of Christine Lagarde, we had assurances from the French and German leaders, and yet the markets seem to be tuning out of all of that now. They are at 3-month lows for the most part. The Asian markets, not a pretty sight this Wednesday morning. Let's give you the latest numbers for those. The Hang Seng in Hong Kong around 2.5% down, leading most of the, in fact, all of the Asian markets there down. That said, the Hang Seng is still around 4% up for the year. So if you're invested in Asia, or particularly in Hong Kong, you are technically still making a few gains.
OK, let's pick up on a little bit of company news now, shall we? And General Motors has confirmed it is discontinuing adverts on Facebook just 2 days before the social network stock market debut. GM announced its decision after Facebook admitted weaknesses over revenues from advertising on smartphones. On a brighter note for Facebook, though, it's raised the price range for its stock market flotation this Friday by 14%, giving it a projected market capitalisation of over $100 billion.
And Spanish oil producer Repsol has started suing the Argentinian government over the seizure of YPF. Repsol claims the controlling stake of its Argentinian subsidiary taken by President Cristina Fernandez is illegal. It's seeking nearly $11 billion in damages. Argentina's government has yet to comment on the litigation, but its seizure of YPF has won broad support at home.
And a new battle over the US debt ceiling has started. Republican leader John Boehner says he wants $1 of cuts for every dollar of government spending to trim public debt levels. He has the backing of Republican presidential candidate Mitt Romney. Last year, the deadlock over how to bring down US debts of around $2 trillion led to the downgrading of the country's AAA credit rating. Next then, another day, another apology from the chief executive of JP Morgan. Jamie Dimon has been profuse in his excuses for a $2 billion trading loss. It may be enough for shareholders, but excuses aren't enough for the FBI and US financial watchdogs. They want to know how the investment bank racked up such a big loss, dealing in kind of risky business new regulations are supposed to stop.
JP Morgan's shareholders arrived in Florida on Tuesday to get explanations. The bank has just lost up to $3 billion trading risky credit derivatives. CEO Jamie Dimon apologized.
original intent of the credit portfolio experiencing the losses was to hedge the company in a stressed credit environment. But in repositioning this portfolio, we ended up with a strategy that was flawed, complex, poorly conceived, poorly vetted, and poorly executed.
But shareholders say apologies aren't enough. They demand real changes within the bank.
Jamie Dimon is both the CEO and the chair, which is equivalent to being your own boss. And accountability is the problem that we're having with the loss of $2 billion in derivatives. The unit wasn't properly overseen. So who oversees that unit? Jamie. Who oversees Jamie? Jamie. That's the problem. He's his own boss.
The scandal is a throwback to the deals that contributed to the crash of 2008. Since then, the United States voted the Volcker Rule, which says that banks can't bet with their own money if they're federally insured. The rule hasn't come into force yet, and experts say that few banks are taking the initiative.
They were using the assets of the bank to hedge risk, which is something that every bank does. If it works well, nobody hears about it. And if it doesn't work well, then everybody jumps in and criticizes.
Financial watchdogs and the FBI are now examining JP Morgan's methods. President Obama said the scandal strengthens the case for stronger financial regulations.
Okay, some earnings news out for you now. Just in the last half an hour or so, EADS, that's the European parent company of French manufacturer Airbus, reporting some healthy first quarter results. Those are the numbers up there for you. For the first quarter, revenues up 16% to just under 11.5 billion euros. Interesting to note that Airbus says it's now fixed those wing problems on the A380 Super Jumbo that cost the company around 160 million euros. Airbus aims to deliver around 570 aircraft in 2012, including 30 A380s, so still giving Boeing a run for their money. And indeed, Airbus and Boeing's rivalry has been well documented. There's no love lost between the two companies, and yet for the suppliers of the French plane maker, things are a little different. For the first time, dozens of French Airbus suppliers have gone to Boeing's home turf in the United States to try and pick up a little bit of new business there. Our correspondent Chris Bachman went with them.
Seattle is home to around half of the world's large passenger jets, thanks to Boeing having its factories based here. For the first time, French suppliers who helped build planes for rival Airbus have come en masse to Seattle to try and offer their expertise to the aircraft maker. But it means adapting to US ways of doing business first.
You know, in the US, the service is more important than in Europe. Okay? You have to be on time, with the right quality of the product, but also with the right quality in terms of services.
For French suppliers, this trade show in Seattle is their first chance to see what Boeing needs. Getting work from the US plane maker means they won't be so dependent on Airbus in the future, especially if the industry goes through a new downturn.
I think it's also possible to work for Boeing, for one side Boeing and other side for Airbus, and to put our energy, our imagination to the service of both.
In fact, many American suppliers like this one, which works on carbon fiber material for Boeing, are also keen to get more work overseas with Airbus, especially as it sold a record number of planes last year. But they face their own hurdles too.
We've got to overcome language, we've got to overcome cultural barriers, we've got to overcome political barriers in a lot of cases. European companies coming here may find a similar challenge, and we need to work together to figure out how to make that work.
Boeing held a late-night party for French suppliers. Have they won over the Americans? And one positive sign, the hosts served wine with French names like Chardonnay or Merlot, but the vineyards they came from were very much American.
That's it from us. That's it from Owen. He's back with more business just over an hour and the latest headlines with Lorna next.